welcome to Residing in North Idaho. We have a special guest here today, Amy Kidd. I know her from jiu-jitsu and I know their family. So we wanted to bring her on to talk about homeschooling and I don't know, you do a lot of cool stuff. So all of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Homesteading.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All the stuff. You do all the stuff.
Okay. All the cool stuff that North Idaho is known for, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, thanks. That's an honor to think that I'm so cool.
I literally thought
But
of
I
you.
do cool things.
Yeah. When I was writing a guest list, I was like, oh, we should have Amy on.
Mhm.
Yeah. And you're not shy about talking too. So I
No,
think
I'm not.
that helps a lot.
Well, thanks for thinking of
Yeah, of course. Of course. I got up at 3 a.m. this morning. I have to share this story because it was interesting. My dogs were going crazy at 3 a.m. And usually that happens because there's cats in the neighborhood. I live in downtown. So, cats, whatever. The dogs would not stop. So I came downstairs. I grabbed my pistol. I, put on some clothing and
I know Hadley's like, did he go out there in his underwear?
Okay. First time I
Right.
did.
Kids already.
Yeah. Second time when I grabbed the gun, I came back and I clothed myself. I surreptitiously snuck onto the back porch and I was sitting there all quiet in the shadows and I hear these two guys talking like quite loudly. I was like, and they're in my neighbor's, like behind my neighbor's shed. There's like this brushy area. It's
Not maintained.
no,
Nobody
it's
goes
like
back
there's
there.
no reason.
Yeah.
It's so hard to get in there. I don't even know why anybody would be in there. I'm like, oh, maybe they're looking for a cat or a dog or something, whatever. And they're being really loud, and it's going on and on. I'm like, I didn't really understand what they were talking about. They were just rambling, and I realized they were drunk. And so I got a little closer, and I hit him with the flashlight, and I was like, "What are you doing?" And then they get all quiet. I'm like, oh, now we're gonna be quiet. Okay.
Like, I've already heard you and seen you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm like, okay, if they're like breaking into something, they're not doing a very good job because they're so loud. So I'm shining the light on there. I'm like, okay, what are you doing? And finally this guy like pokes his head up and he's like, we're sparring. And I was like, did I hear that wrong? So I said, you're sparring. Mind you, it's like 3:30 in the morning right now. And so I've got the light on him. I'm like, okay, like, let me see you. Who are you? And he's like, oh, my name's John. I'm like, where do you live? He's like, I live in the house. And I don't know those neighbors. So he points at the house that they're behind. And I'm like, what is going on here? And there's two guys. And now that I'm like reliving this incident in my mind, I'm like, was there some like hanky-panky shenanigans going on?
Like, why are we on the ground?
They were on the ground. Like they were not sparring. And, I'm like, finally, I'm like, okay, like just go inside. You woke up my entire house. I don't appreciate it. So they like rustle off through the bushes with they had a lighter to light their way. And then I heard
they had their
So
clothes
weird.
on.
I was gonna say
they
they were
did. Yeah. The
clothed.
one guy I saw was clothed. Yes, thankfully. And then I heard some girl in the front, like, what are you idiots doing? And they sounded like they knew each other. So I was like, okay, whatever. Crisis
Are they young
averted.
adults that live next
They
door?
were like, I don't know, because they're on the other street over. So I only see the
okay.
back of the house. I'm not
Okay.
sure. The guy I saw was like probably in his 30s, which is, weird.
Yeah,
definitely
it's very
drunk.
close to 4 a.m. It's like,
Yeah.
usually like after 2.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you
We're
know, if you're
well
drunk,
beyond the
yeah.
bars
really early
closing.
training.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I was laughing. I was like, sparring, huh? That's
my
what you came up with.
gosh.
Yeah. I was like,
Weird.
sure, guy. You probably don't have that issue in
So-
your neck of the woods, right?
No.
You guys have a little bit more space, and that's nice.
Yeah.
That is one downside of downtown is like, I mean, it's nice because we can walk everywhere and that's cool. We can walk to the
Mhm.
beach, but you've got people crowded in.
There have been issues though where I've had to call the cops because the empty field across the street, like there was a girl screaming. I don't know if it was something going on, but she went running down the street.
Is it like high school
And-
kids messing around, you think?
It was in the summer, so it could have been.
Yeah,
But yeah, we get some weirdos
I imagine.
walking down
It's like no matter where you go,
It's
they're there.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like, if this were California and I had that same incident, it would have been like two tweakers trying to steal your catalytic
Yeah.
converter. So thankfully it wasn't that. It's a couple of
Yeah.
drunk dudes doing, I don't know what, sparring.
I don't know if you want to find out.
No, I don't want to find out. I'm like, I was thinking about just going by the house over there today and just being like, hey, like, does this guy live here? And could you mind, could you not do that?
Right.
Especially at least at 3 a.m. or
Right.
outside where
Yeah.
the neighbors have to hear you.
Yeah.
Right. Come on.
Dogs are going bonkers, man. It's all bad. Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and just
Downtown.
assume that's what was happening.
Sorry.
Anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
So I had to start with that story because it's been like gnawing at me all morning.
Like that was so weird to wake up.
Yeah.
Had to share it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Felt good to get the old gun out again, though. I felt like,
I bet.
like the old job. That
He's
cool.
probably looking at you half naked going, what are you doing with the gun?
Maybe. Thankfully, he couldn't tell I had one on him because the light was like so bright.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then like I try to go back to sleep, but you're like, your
You
mind's
can't.
racing. You're
Yeah.
like, all these scenarios are playing out in your head.
Yep.
And you're like, oh my gosh. Like,
And I'm
Yeah.
sitting there laying in bed awake, and I'm like,
What is he going to do?
it's taking him a while to get back. I wonder if I should check on him. I'm like, no.
What would you
it's
do if
warm and cozy. He's
what would you have done if you heard
fine.
if you heard gunshots? What would you have done?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, keep it down out there.
Yeah,
Is that what you would have done?
probably. I
Did
would
you get him?
yeah, I would have just probably like freaked out and ran in circles.
Uh,
Yeah.
I was thinking about calling Coeur d'Alene PD because I'm like, it's graveyard. They got nothing going on right
Yeah.
now, I'm sure. So this would be a fun call.
Yeah,
like,
let's
hey, there's two
give us
dudes in the
entertainment.
Totally.
there's two dudes sparring behind a shed. You guys want to go talk to them? Like that. Those are the fun calls on graveyards. I'm sure
Oh,
they would have
for
enjoyed
sure.
that.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
So,
So that was
back,
my excitement.
back to why Amy's here.
Yeah.
Um,
The important thing.
so we talk about on our videos on YouTube a lot. We mention because everyone who's thinking about moving here is thinking about
Mhm.
schools, and
Yeah.
we don't really like to talk about schools. It's not really our place, nor do we
Yeah.
really, we don't know. We don't have kids in every school here or whatnot. But anyways, we always mention that homeschool is huge here in Idaho. And so that's why your name came up, because you homeschool and you homeschool well. So we wanted to have
I don't know
you.
about well. I told Seth, I was like,
That's-
I don't know if I'm the person for homeschooling.
That is something all homeschool moms say,
Yep.
though. Like Kristen did it for a year and she's like, I'm doing a terrible job.
That was,
and I'm like,
I have
no, like,
never been more insecure about myself than when I homeschooled. I mean, it was like anxiety and always constantly, am I doing enough? Am I doing enough?
am I ruining
Yeah.
the kids? Like,
Am I
yeah,
ruining
yeah.
the kids?
Totally.
Because there's not like I don't know, like a bar to get to, right?
Yeah. Well, and in Idaho, you don't have to report to anybody.
Right.
And so that's what's great is this is a great homeschooling state. And that's what's drawn a lot of people here, not only the freedom in general, but then the freedom with homeschooling.
Mhm.
And then you can actually just write your kids a diploma when you feel like they've learned all they need to learn.
Oh, that's cool.
To
That's
graduate. Yeah.
interesting.
So I do love that they don't have to meet state standards.
Mhm.
But it is a constant, like, I'm not doing enough. Well, and I have 6 kids. And so the first year I homeschooled, I had 5 kids in school and then a toddler. And so trying to learn how
my
to
goodness.
navigate this plus homesteading and working part-time jobs, like it's just a lot. And then
Mhm.
maintaining a home. And that's one of the things that I have a really hard time is that I like to have my home organized.
Mm.
And, you have to give up a lot of things if you're going to do a really good job with just like the schooling,
Right.
but also breaking away from, because we did 6 years of public school and then I was public schooled. So getting my mind, like, I don't
Right.
have to mimic, this is homeschool. That's
Mhm.
why I'm homeschooling. I don't want it to look like public
I
school.
think that's the hardest thing for parents that go from public school to homeschool. I think really that's it, is because like that was me, was like trying to untrain myself to think like
Yeah.
that. And we kind of started out with we didn't know what we were doing, right? So we went first, we're like, ooh, what about unschooling?
Mhm.
And that is completely opposite.
Yeah.
And so that gave me like
Which
severe
people hear that
anxiety.
and then they go,
Yeah.
unschooling? Like, you're not going to school
Right,
your
there is
kids? Like,
no
they're going to
plan
be really
here.
screwed up.
Totally.
Like, how are they going to make it in life?
Right.
So that's what I told Seth when he asked me. I was like, and I tell people this all the time. I said, I really suck at homeschooling. What you see, like this Instagram perfect and on social media, and even like hear other people, and they're like, oh, my 12-year-old's graduating and going to be in college, taking college courses. That is not me. But my kids have so many skills that they are great at prepared
vouch
for
for
life.
that.
So I say I am really good at life schooling. They can communicate with adults. They make their own money, not from us. They work. So they have to, have those conversations with adults, like when they're discussing prices for their jobs. They've had opportunities to build fences, build buildings, snow plow, farm for our friends, local farmers here in town. They've learned so many different skills because of the freedom to be able to homeschool and then work during the day. And then recently my husband got laid off. And so we want to create an opportunity for our children, because the cost of living here is so expensive and we love it here. My husband was born and raised here. And so this is where we want to stay. And so we started a local business doing backflows and blowouts, which is what my boys have been doing with our friend for a couple years. And so now they are able to start and run that business with my husband, the two oldest boys, and go out and do that and learn all the things. And that daily, like learning where sprinklers come out and these pipes go here and one goes here, and then problem solving all day long. And I think that's what's lacking in public schools right now, is that it's so much about memorization and test scores versus critical thinking.
Right. And practical skills.
And practical skills. Yeah. How to manage money, how to work. I can't tell you how many kids, they're like, oh, my kid's on the, honors list. You go and have them try to rake up leaves, and you're like, it's just,
how do you
break and bend over, pick it up. That's all you gotta do.
Right.
But they don't, that physical effort of work, they'd rather just sit inside and on a computer or whatever. And there's a whole other thing about that with kids and mental issues and stuff, not getting outside enough, being on screens too much. Like, there's a lot of studies that done on that type of thing too.
I think there's so much value in just like what you were talking about, the practical skills, the critical thinking. You go to school and you can go to, I don't even know, high math, but you know what I mean? You're going to algebra or whatever. And it's like, oh, great, I can memorize this, but how do I use it in real life application? And am I, and of course we use it and don't even realize that we're using it in real life application, but like, it doesn't matter if you can't use it in real life and relate it that way, right? So if you're learning it through, and that was kind of the idea when we first were looking at unschooling, it was like, oh, we'll teach them in everyday life. We ended up finding a middle ground so that I kind of felt like I had meeting certain things, right? But that's what worked for me. But even now our kids are in school, they're in a private school. And even now, they're sticking to some sort of math curriculum. And I'm so much more relaxed about it than I used to be, where it's like, if you don't learn it, you don't learn it. Like how
often do
what career are you going to do?
You guys are business owners that you use high math unless it's a specialty.
Right.
No.
Addition, subtraction, multiplication. Yep. Percentages, but that's easy.
And then like word problems, because you're like, I have this, and
that's it. Yeah, which is like critical thinking, right?
Yes,
right. So there's just so much stress on kids to like learn, like keep going and keep going and keep going in math, and it's like, why?
Well, anything, right? Teaching them. I'm like, wait, I have a college degree, and I don't remember any of this. Right? Did I even ever learn this? Like, I don't remember. Yeah, that was so long ago.
I know our daughter's in 7th grade, and she's like, "Can you help me?" I'm like, "No."
And how many parents say that? So it's like, and that's what, like building, my kids are using real life fractions, like
reading a tape measure is a skill I've used thousands and thousands of times.
My kids have the opportunity in the kitchen, and that's a real life skill that so many people don't have anymore. I actually have taught cooking classes for women, teaching them how to cook from scratch, because I think it is such an important skill. And so many women go, I don't know. And then with inflation right now, that's, knowing how to cook healthy meals for your family from scratch is so important to me.
Yeah.
And, but with our lifestyles these days, Americans, we're just go, go, go. We think that's, the way you're supposed to live. And so it's just so much easier to grab a fast food. But then you look at the obesity rates in children and
health,
the health rate with everybody, all ages.
Yeah.
And so that's why, my kids, they're all in the kitchen with me all the time. They preserve their own food. They know how to can. They know how to grow it from the soil, harvest it, and then preserve it.
That's awesome.
And so, such a great skill.
I think it's pretty rare in these times. That's so cool. Are there resources in Idaho for people that want to homeschool? Like, are there groups, or where people for socialization, things like that?
Oh yeah. So socialization is the biggest thing. Like
people always say that, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
There's so many memes that are out there like, oh, you thought my kid was going to be weird by homeschooling? It's like, these high schoolers that do like the pod challenges, like or eating, cleaning pods, or like all the weird things that are going around TikTok. You're like, wait, homeschoolers are not the weird ones anymore.
Not anymore. Yeah.
And I can vouch for that. I know your kids at jiu-jitsu, and like they talk to me like an adult, and that is pretty rare today.
Mm-hmm.
Like I talk to a lot of kids, and they're like,
right.
A lot of kids won't look you in the eye, and I'm like, whoa, up here, like that skill is probably the most important thing that a kid can learn.
Totally.
Like that's how you function in society.
Well, that you need that, like reading, writing, and communicating. Yeah. Those are 3 skills that like you need to do. You need to have no matter what. And so, yes, there's private schools, but there are so many activities, like so many homeschool groups now in North Idaho that like I hardly ever go to any, because part of homeschooling was to not be as busy, which sounds crazy. My older sister thought I was crazy when I told her that one of the reasons I started homeschool was because I was so busy with 4 kids in public school. I was constantly running back and forth to school, and I had, assemblies and classroom activities. And then I always coached cross country early in the morning, because I could bring all of my children. It was a way for me to be part of the kids' lives, with all of my kids with me. And so with all the babies and toddlers in hand. So I coached cross country for years at the elementary school. And then, but I was just so busy all the time. And I felt like, and then you just like rush out the door. Then they come home and you're like, hurry up, get your stuff done. Right. And then let's eat dinner.
So stressful.
Then it's time for bed so that you can wake up on time. And I just felt like I was constantly like yelling from the beginning, like, let's go. And then coming home, like, hurry up. And I'm like, this isn't the way to live. Like, I want to spend time. And I wanted them to be able to do the other things, learn, whatever their interests were, and have time for that and not feel like it was rushed. And so they have I could do something every single day with groups, homeschool groups, if I wanted to.
That's awesome.
And like, there's people are constantly reaching out. Hey, I have a child this age, and there's a homeschool Facebook group. And then there's little groups that people have formed themselves within that. There are also 2 charter schools that you can do, Tech Trup and Harmony, which are state. So you get a fund back some of your own tax dollars. You get them back.
Yay.
Well, imagine that. Back. So per kid per year, you get a certain amount so that can go towards extracurricular activities or music, or curriculum.
That's awesome.
Anything that has to do with learning. And so but then you do have to take the state test 2 times a year, and then you have to turn in assignments.
Oh, if you take them
every 2 weeks. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. Because they have to prove. So they're pretty lightly, take those tests pretty lightly, which is good, because that's one of the reasons I left public school is I feel like that was just one way to test a child's knowledge and intelligence. Like, not every child learns that way.
Right.
There's many different ways to learn. Yeah. And so, so I didn't like that. And so they don't really take the test scores, and do anything with them. So if you do take the money, but it's nice for those who maybe want some guidance, like, okay, where should my 4th grader be? Like, what should we be learning at this, stage? And then you have other support too, because you have homeschool teachers, and then you have that you can reach out to, or counselors if you have any questions, and to help keep the kids on track, and other resources too.
That's how it was in California when we did it. We went through a program, and there was like our homeschool teacher who was like my best friend. And and then they just had to turn in 1 or 2 examples of work, basically a month,
whatever they're doing.
And then they did have to do the state testing, but it was like, it was like, like 1 page of something they did.
Yeah. So if you don't want to be part of the system, I thought that for a while. I was like, I don't want to have anything to do with it. I don't want them to track my kids. Yeah. No, but sometimes financially that's, and mentally, if you're like, I just need some guidance, because I feel like I'm just all out there, it is helpful.
Is it hard to get tied into the homeschool community? Like, if someone
not at all
easy to find?
No, there's lots of actually moms who reach out, who are part of the homeschool Facebook group, and who haven't even moved here yet. And they're
cool.
just like asking like, hey, what's it like? Or we're moving there this month. Like, I want to get connected.
Do you remember the name of the Facebook group?
Coeur d'Alene Homeschool Community.
Okay, there you go. Coeur d'Alene
I
Homeschool
believe,
Community.
yeah.
Something like that.
Something
I
like
imagine
that.
if you search
Yeah.
that, it'll come up.
Yeah.
And are there a lot of I don't know what you call them, like places that, like I know the jiu-jitsu gym has a homeschool classes.
Yeah.
Like, are there
So
other
then
places
Real
that they
Life
see?
has like a PE
Oh,
open
cool.
gym. I think that's Tuesday mornings. And there's like hundreds of kids. I've never
wow.
gone. I've heard it's insane.
Insane.
Though.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's probably fun for the kids.
But
Yeah.
yeah.
Not for the parents.
So yeah, not for the parents. Yeah. So there's, like you said, there's so many groups and just like little breakoffs group people that do
That's cool.
their own. Yeah. So
And
it's totally easy.
correct me if I'm wrong, but you can participate in public school sports, right?
Yes. So that's also been great because when my oldest got into high school, he wanted to participate. And I figured, okay, why not? Like,
Yeah.
And another way for him to meet different friends.
Yeah.
And so he's loved it. He does lacrosse. And then this year he did cross country.
Oh,
and
nice.
then I think both boys will be doing lacrosse this next year.
Cool.
So they were going to do wrestling, but I was just like, I want a break from extra sports because we do
Yes.
jujitsu 6 days
Right.
a week for
Right.
2 hours,
Oh,
you
wow.
know?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
your kids are in there so much, by the way. They're like, the
Yeah.
older boys are dangerous now.
well, and then it's an extra hour. They should be doing the adult class every night, but
Yeah.
it's just, that's a 4-hour day then of driving and picking kids up back and forth from there. Because my 5-year-old doesn't like to do the one with the bigger kids.
Mm.
And then I'm not going to have him hang out the whole time. And then I have too much to do that I can't hang out for 4 hours a day. I did at the beginning. I was like, okay, this is half my day.
That's a
Like,
lot,
I
yeah.
can't do
Too
this.
much, yeah.
So I'm dropping off now.
Smart.
Yeah. So
Cool. Oh, so homesteading, like what kind of stuff do you guys, you have like an acre or a little over an acre?
yeah, so we just have an acre.
Okay.
And homesteading has kind of gotten to be this big word in the
Mhm.
last since COVID.
Mhm.
We've always homesteaded. I grew up just on 5 acres, but my mom always had a garden and we had to work the land. We've always canned food, homemade bread. So that I've done that since we've been married. And but then since we've been in this house, we just have an acre. And so we have chickens, we have pigs. We're going to raise lamb next year
Oh,
on the
nice.
front lawn. Why
Nice.
grow lawn when we can grow meat?
Why, right. Why not?
So yeah, we've done meat birds, chickens that eat for meat. And we have a huge garden, lots of fruit trees. So you can do a lot on
Yeah,
an acre. And that's
acre's
with 2
big.
shops and a pool in there too.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
yeah,
How many pigs do you have?
we just have 2.
Yeah.
They're gonna.
Are they the giant, like big giant ones?
They're Mangalistas, so they're the hairy ones, and they have curly tail.
Oh.
So they're longer grow out season for those, but it's like supposed to be like the best meat ever. So they're
Like
fresh.
how heavy do they get?
I think they're probably close to 300 pounds right
Yeah,
now.
that's pretty big.
Yeah, they're big.
Do you guys process all the meat yourselves, or do you?
We were going to, but Jared
lot.
didn't want to this year.
Yeah.
we do the meat birds and the chickens, but the pig it's a little bit different. And then
it's just a lot to deal with.
it's a
too.
lot and a lot of
Yeah.
different cuts in
Mhm.
that. So that is our goal to do it all. But this year, just starting a new business and stuff, it's been a lot. So
Do the butchers here? Will they come out and slaughter and take it, or how's
we
that?
have to take it too.
You take
Yeah.
You slaughter, take it.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah, no, actually, we're going to take it alive. And
Okay.
then they stay
They
there.
do it
And then
there.
when
Do it
it's
there?
then they
Oh,
get
that's
to it.
nice.
that's take. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know because Jared was like, "How are we going to get them?" And they're so big, like in
Yeah.
a trailer.
Right.
They can
Oh
bust
yeah,
out
like
of
trying
that.
to load that.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
goodness,
When
yeah.
they're piglets, so we could just kind of like throw them out. But now they're a lot heavier. They got out the other night, and Jared called me. I was at
Dang.
jiu-jitsu. He's like, the pigs got out because they extended the pen, and it was
Like-
a little hole. They didn't think that they would go through, and they found that way, and it was already dark. And he's like,
Oh,
they're scary in the
no.
dark. 300 pounds.
You're right.
Holy
Pigs
crap.
looking at you, and he was alone, so he got them in.
Did they make it out into the neighborhood, or did they
No,
just on
like
the property?
we closed the gate.
Oh,
yeah.
thank goodness,
Yeah,
yeah.
It's fully fenced. So yeah,
That's good.
yeah. But I was like, that would be quite the story.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I have had that call many a night working on the highway patrol. It was like you
Animals
get
are
the weirdest
out.
animals out. We had an emu out one time, which
Oh.
like if you don't know, it's like an ostrich but smaller.
Did you try to write it?
No, but the guy that got the call eventually had to shoot it because it kept running out on the road, and it was there was no catching this thing. You know, they're super fast, so he ended up blasting it with a shotgun.
Yeah,
not the best way to handle it, but
no.
you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I used to keep a rope in the car, and like I would rope steers
That's what I was gonna say.
all the time, and I'm like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Just like throw a rope around its neck and like tie it to the push bumper on the patrol car, and they're like, oh,
now what do I do?
Now what? There's no animal control out there in the middle of the night, so you're on your own. Yeah, it's good times.
Yeah, but no, you can do a lot on a little acreage, and people don't realize that. They think that they need to have this, you know, big plot of land, and it's amazing. People are always so impressed with what we do with just our 1 acre, and surprised that it's only an acre because we just pack it full, you know.
So, what kind of stuff do you can and preserve?
So, one of the biggest things when we saw the house, had been vacant for a year, and it was complete 1970s, but it had 26 mature fruit trees on it. And to me, that was like,
that's amazing.
Okay, that's what I want. I don't even care what the house looks like. Like, it has food, and it has a maple tree in the front that we've tapped, and
nice.
Yeah, and it has grapes and hazelnuts, and had walnut trees, and so and then a big area to do a garden. And so and it has grapevines, 3 different types of grapes. So we get lots of grape juice every year.
Oh, cool.
And then, and grape jelly from that, all that. So lots of jams. I have a huge strawberry patch because those are one of the most heavily sprayed for pesticides.
Oh, yeah.
And I love strawberries. So, and berries are expensive. Yeah. But berries are expensive too. So for a family of 8, like if I can grow that and then preserve it and do whatever I want with that, then it's so much cheaper. And I know exactly what was in the soil. And
do you just make jam with it, or like?
Yeah, we'll freeze dry. We have a freeze dryer, so we freeze dry them, and they're really good.
Oh, wow,
and then you could do like a banana and like strawberry freeze dried.
Eat that all in a day.
Yeah. It's so good. It's so good. Yeah. So we'll freeze dry things. We'll dehydrate. We got a freeze dryer about 4 years ago, maybe 5 now, because our dehydrators were going all the time. We were, canning plus trying to dry things. And then like I'd make fruit leather, but that also requires, you can do that in the sun as well on just baking sheets. But we needed more ways. And then with the freeze drying, it preserves almost all of the nutrients. And then you have their, last 25, 30 years.
That's awesome.
So cool. Versus canning, which is a couple years, and then dehydrating. If you don't get all the moisture out, then you can have mold and everything. So yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I can't believe our strawberries up here. I'm going to do more next year. They go crazy and they're delicious. And they multiple times they will fruit over the year.
I think they were still producing when we had the first freeze.
Yeah. And, if you have ever buried ones, they will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're awesome. Just go crazy. They're so big and delicious. I'm like, dude,
nothing like a store bought.
I'm not doing zucchini next year. I'm just going to do more strawberries.
Yeah. That's like half of my garden is I have huge strawberries.
Yeah. Well, and I'm going to do, because I learned this from your house, the trellis.
Oh, yes.
That was super cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you do squash or
I've done squash. Okay. Yep. Butternut squash or zucchini.
Because that's
you can do anything vertical, and that way it gives you a lot more space to grow.
Yeah.
And so you just get the 16-foot cattle panel and you just and then anchor it down, and then you can grow anything, and you can grow them at both sides too.
That's awesome. I saw that and I was like, oh my God. Cause that's the most annoying thing with zucchinis. And that's why I didn't want to do them again, is because it's so bushy and you can't find them all. And then 2 days later, they're
you're like, where did that
enormous,
come from?
Oh my God. Yeah. It's like giant. You're like, okay, that's
done.
Yeah.
And they're all spiky when you get in there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do that next year
Yeah. It's fun with squash because they vine out. Get long, and so then you don't have to take up like 30 feet of ground space for one plant, and you can just do them up and over. And
like cucumbers, anything.
Cucumbers, I do all my cucumbers vertical. Just stick them. You just got to make sure the sun, though, that when you put that trellis up, that you're not shading unless you have a shade loving plant. Then you can do that on the other side. That's great if you want a cooler crop. You can do that on the shaded side, but if something requires full sun, you just got to make sure that you're not going to be blocking the sun for the plants behind it.
We actually have, believe it or not, downtown, we have a pretty big garden on the side of the house. And there was a lot of grass over there. And last year, Hudson and I tore it all out because I'm like, I'm wasting so much water.
So much water.
It was crazy how much water. And I'm like, nobody uses that because there was planter boxes mixed in. So we tore it all out, added more planter boxes, and then and then
Yeah,
just
it
did
looks great.
gravel.
I
And it's like,
noticed that.
it's
Yeah.
clean and it grows a ton of food. It's awesome.
Yeah, you can do square foot gardening, which is in a square foot, you do different plants, and like you can cram food in there
It's
and
pretty
grow a
cool.
lot in a small space. So
What I haven't gotten into is canning. We went to a class a couple weeks ago, but it was more like it was not hands-on. It was like telling us about it.
Different ways too.
Which was cool, but like do you
taught
classes?
Yeah, I've taught some canning classes, pressure canning and water bath canning.
Yeah.
And they have to do it because that is part of learning, and the in-person classes is the hands-on. Like for those kinesthetic learners, they're doing it. So you're going to like get the feel of it and be able to have something like show you. So I've had people ask me to teach more. So I need to teach more.
That was my next question.
I'm trying to find the time to do it. So, but yeah, I mean, we can a lot. So
that's cool.
But it's great. I mean, it's not always cheaper. Especially if you have to buy your produce, which is fine. If you want to start out canning and you have to buy your produce, there should be no shame. Like that's fine.
Yeah.
That you bought your produce and you didn't grow it. Like go for it. You know, it's just learning these skills, and a lot of this, it's learning it. So if you ever have to use it, then you have those skills.
Right. That's the important thing. Like you don't want to learn it when things go bad and you're under stress of like feeding.
Same thing with like gardening. Don't assume you're just going to put a plant. And every year gardening, you learn something new. Like I grew sponges this year. It was super fun. Loofahs. And I've always wanted to do that, but here it's a really short growing season and they require a long, warm growing season. So I probably I got like 10 loofahs about this big, but they're sponges, and then you can cut them off. You can use them for body scrubs, for the dishes, everything, and they'll last forever. And then they're biodegradable. So throw them in your compost.
That's awesome.
So yeah.
And I've seen you post like elderberry syrup and stuff.
Yeah.
Are you harvesting the elderberries?
Yep. I harvest the elderberries here, and then I have 2 huge bushes that are about 8 years old at my house, but they grow all over the place here. So yeah, I've been making elderberry syrup for 16 years. I used to buy it at the store, but you only get like 4 to 6 ounces and you're paying $30. Right. And when all the kids were sick, then we're taking it 3 times a day and you're going through, 2 to 3 bottles a week, and it doesn't taste very good. And plus it has citric acid in it, which I don't love. And so, I started making my own. And then back then people didn't really know about elderberry syrup, and they're like, oh yeah, that's great. And so, but then the last, like probably, 6 years, elderberry's gotten a lot more attention and of the health benefits of it. And so now everyone's starting to sell elderberry syrup. Right.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I made it one time, I'm going to sell it now. And so, which is great that people are, learning about the health benefits of it. But yeah, I've always used local honey and then all organic spices and stuff. So
so I need to come buy it from you next time you're making it.
Yes, it is so good. And it doesn't have any of the preservatives in it, plus has a local honey, so that has a lot of health benefits.
Do you have your own bees, or are you getting honey?
You need to get bees.
So the first year in this house, I actually ordered beehives, but because of our pool, I just don't want them having a lot of kids coming. And so it's not cheap to get started. And then also it's one more thing. And I was pregnant when we moved into this house 9 years ago. I was pregnant with our 5th. And so it was just a lot of work anyways, having that acre and all of the fruit on it to preserve. And then we have early apples. They're called transparent apples, which they're really soft, and they drop in like July.
Oh,
which I didn't know before then, that I thought apples were a fall harvest. And so when I looked out the window and I saw the ground covered in these apples, I'm like, what is going on? And so we had to preserve. We did 60 quarts of applesauce that first year. I had a newborn, and I have C-section. So I was still, months out from that. And, 4 other kids and a newborn. And so everybody would go out, we'd harvest, pick every day for a couple hours. And then my husband and I would wait until night, and we'd be up canning until like 1 or 2 in the morning to get them harvested, because that was the only time that we had. Right. And then we composted, I think, over 200 gallons of apples that first year, because we're like, we can't keep up with these. Right. So there's, it's kind of nice though, because it spreads out the harvest, but it just starts a lot earlier, because then cherries and plums and then the garden stuff all starts.
Where do you keep all of this? Like, do you have a whole room full of
Can't
canned
tell you
stuff?
that,
Oh,
Seth.
okay, yeah. Well, no one knows where you live.
Underground
Except I do,
bunker.
I guess. But
I'm also not going to tell you where all my guns are.
good point. Good point. Okay, so does it fill up a whole room?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's and you just it's mason jars.
Mason jars or Mylar bags.
Oh,
Yeah.
Mylar bags.
Yeah.
And then you just rotate.
And then 5-gallon
Really?
buckets for the other food storage.
Do you guys eat applesauce every single day?
No, but we should. No, my goal this year is to try to go through all of the food storage that we've preserved.
Yeah.
To eat and live off of that.
Oh, that's a cool
mostly.
idea.
So, and then with making bread, sourdough, you can make everything.
You're my sourdough
that.
competition. by
I
the way.
know.
Yeah.
Competition.
Yeah.
I think I've been doing it longer. How long
You've
have
been
you been doing it?
you've been doing it way longer, I'm sure.
No, I actually only started like a couple months before COVID started.
Okay, still longer. I
Still
started
longer.
like
Yeah.
2 years ago, maybe.
Okay.
And I don't even know why. I was just like, I'm gonna
Well,
make
Ashley
sourdough.
gave you a
Oh yeah,
starter,
Ashley,
and then-
Jared's wife gave me a,
Oh, she was the one
Starter.
who gave you one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I still have that starter.
And so he just
um,
started going with it.
Well, that's great because COVID started and people were like, you couldn't find yeast and you couldn't find bread. And so lots of people
Ah.
want to learn how to make yeast bread, but you couldn't find the yeast on the shelves. And so that's what's great about sourdough is as long as
Yeah.
you have flour and water, like you can just feed it and it's never ending.
It's so freaking good too, and it's
so
like
good. And it's
so
so
simple.
good for you. And it's so
Nothing
simple.
in it. Yeah.
And you can make tortillas
Everything.
and donuts and English muffins
Oh my
and
goodness.
Cinnamon rolls.
cinnamon
Dude,
rolls.
dude,
Yes.
the cinnamon rolls
Are the best, right?
Yeah, oh my gosh.
Sourdough cinnamon rolls, like so good.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I do not allow myself to make them, but a couple of times a year, like for
Yes.
you know,
same. Well, and it's a
Christmas
lot. It's a lot.
morning.
Yes, it's a lot of work.
Yes.
The process is kind of
Yes.
long.
Well,
but
it's
they
just-
are like
yeah.
damn good.
That's my kids' every tournament, jiu-jitsu tournament. That's what they get.
Oh, cool, perfect,
Oh,
right?
that's
So-
a
Like,
nice
yeah,
reward.
Yeah,
restore the glycogen reserves.
yeah.
and
After
just,
they've been.
Yeah.
Trying
Have
to get
you
away.
done pretzels?
No, I haven't done pretzels.
Those are amazing.
okay.
Those are
I
really
do
good.
like I just do pretzel bites. So I take the dough,
my kids were
I
just talking how
chunk
good that is.
it
Yeah,
into like
so
this
easy.
big, boil it, for a minute, and then bake it. And so,
Yeah.
oh my gosh,
Or like in an
s-
assembly
totally
line.
should.
it
Just like,
destroys
throw 'em in
parties
and I take
because
'em out.
for an
Did you do, like, a
appetizer, like
cheese
people
dip?
eat them all. I have not yet.
Oh, that would be
Did we
good.
do a cheese dip one
I
time?
think we've done it before.
Yeah, I couldn't
We-
find a cheese
we
dip
do
that I
the,
liked that was natural. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
the
Like,
flake
yeah, you don't
salt.
want the rubber
Yeah.
plastic,
Yeah.
melted plastic.
basically, right? Yeah, I didn't want that, so that was hard to find.
Yeah, we get the flake salt. So it's like a
Yes,
big-
so
yeah.
it's big.
It looks like
big.
crystal
And
meth,
then put
yeah.
that on there.
Yeah.
And
I
it's
call it
like,
meth
oh
salt.
my god.
Yeah,
Yes,
that stuff
amazing.
is bomb.
It
Yeah.
is. Those are good.
I prefer those over like big pretzels. I've done the big pretzels,
Well, it's so
but
much easier to make. Just
so
chopping
easy.
it.
Yeah, way quicker. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are one of my favorites. But we've like cut out carbs for the most part lately, so it's super hard because I'm like I still bake it, but I'm like I don't get to.
And it's hard to just have.
I don't
like,
get high
one
on my own
piece.
supply. Yeah.
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 So
I think
So-
everybody gained like 15 pounds once
Yeah.
they started
Oh,
making sourdough.
for
Totally,
sure.
totally.
Yes,
And then
like, well, it's good for my gut.
yeah,
and then
fermented.
right.
totally.
And I'm like, not even thinking about it, but then he bakes it because we give it as a closing
Yes.
gift. We always
Yeah, it
do
was
that.
good. Yeah.
So we,
Your
Oh,
hope
you
was
like-
good.
yeah?
I
Okay,
did.
good.
I was
All
going
right,
to tell
good.
you. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
thank
really
you.
so he bakes it, and then it smells the house up, and then I'm like,
Mhm.
okay,
You're like-
I want a
Yeah.
low.
I
Yeah.
know. So hard.
I'm baking
Yeah.
some tonight. We have a work party tomorrow and a closing today, so it's 2 loaves going out, and I'm like, okay, bake them, give them away.
Give
And
'em
I'm not
away.
eating
Like,
it,
I
so it's gonna be hard.
It is. I know.
But next
So good.
week,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna make. Actually, I gotta make some more and freeze it. I want to. My mom's gonna make her stuffing recipe, and I'm gonna
Are you
use.
going to make
I'm gonna use it
stuffing
with my sourdough.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll cut loose on Thanksgiving and go carbs
Yeah.
and just put myself in a coma.
could you
It's
not?
fine.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
you're not going to?
No, I am.
Oh,
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, what?
I mean, like, how could you not? What would you just like turkey?
I know.
Yeah,
Like,
no
that'd be
fun.
sad.
Yeah.
No, you
No,
gotta
once a
you gotta live a
year.
little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. See how that goes, and then I'll probably do cinnamon rolls while my parents are here too, and just
Yeah.
like
It's
Get the
fun
full
to make
experience.
that stuff
Mhm.
for other
Totally.
people.
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
I
But it is a labor of love.
It is. Yeah. I've got it down to a pretty good system now where I don't have to think, what I mean? I know all the measurements in my mind. I can just like do it pretty quick.
Yeah,
But
but like doing doing
timing.
the treats and stuff.
oh
Like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
that's
That I
you know, you got a time you're like, for English muffins, I can let it rise and like I
Mhm.
gotta let it cut out and then rise, and then I gotta have the time to
Right.
cook them afterwards. So
I've
it's
been
just,
wanting to get into making sourdough bagels. My daughter likes bagels, and
they're
it's so hard to find any that don't have like either like
oil.
canola oil
Mhm.
or folic
Yeah.
fortified.
Yeah.
So
They're but they're not hard. It's just, like I said, the time.
Time
Yeah,
consuming.
it's
Yeah.
like,
So he's like, maybe I can teach her how to make it. I'm like,
Yeah.
I know I
Well, totally,
can.
yeah.
She's gonna be like,
Whether she wants to or
mm,
not.
yeah, I don't want
Like,
bagels
I won't have
anymore.
bagels.
Never mind.
Just rather not that.
Child. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's good skills to learn.
Oh,
All
for
that.
sure.
And I think bread baking is one of the most important skills
Mhm.
because, like I said, you could do so much with it.
It's really satisfying. I get a lot of like, that's like my relaxation time. I usually do all the cooking too. I just like cooking. So I just kind of like get out of the way. Let me do it. That's my,
Nice for you. It is
that's
nice
my
for me.
meditation time.
Yeah.
I'm not a foodie.
I just don't want anybody else in the kitchen though, right? Maybe it would be a little more relaxing.
It helps.
Didn't have everybody.
Yeah, it does help. My kids are like, they're gone anyway.
No,
doing
I'm
whatever.
like, okay, you're gonna help because this is a lot of
A lot
mouths
of
to
stuff.
feed everybody.
Yes.
Oh yeah, you have.
And I'll do like
lot
that,
of
like
mouths to
on the beginning of the week, I'll be like, okay, you're making like, if I have sourdough, I'll be like, you're making the sourdough banana bread. You're making granola bars. You're gonna make
That's awesome.
this, and so because for snacks, so that we have homemade snacks.
Yes.
But I mean, it's amazing how fast they go.
Oh my
I'm like, you
gosh,
guys, that
that's
was
the
supposed to
problem,
last for the
right?
week, and it's gone on Monday.
Mhm.
Like, if you guys
That's-
bake something, it's all gone.
Every
So
time we
good.
make like homemade granola bars or homemade something, it's like it, like you said, it's gone in 1 or 2 days, and I'm like, this was supposed to
So much
last.
work,
like
too.
I can't,
You're like-
I can't make
Yeah.
more. And then
So you got to get the kids involved. That is
That's
key. If you
key.
it's so important, and it's so good for them to learn.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Now my daughter made the most delicious pie. She's only 12, and I
That's
was
awesome.
like, she made a homemade graham cracker crust, and I was like, hey, I gotta, like, one of my little boys needed me or whatever, and so I was like, I need to go read books. Like, will you make this? And she's like, yeah. So she just looks it up. And she made this German chocolate pecan pie.
Dang.
It was
Man.
so good.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And no help. Like, she can totally make it from start to finish, like on her own. And
There
it's
are
so
a lot
good.
of adults out there that cannot do that.
Oh,
That's
a lot.
that is life
My
skills.
boys too. My boys have to bake.
Yeah. What a
and-
good skill. Like, it's
Yeah.
I learned through trial and error because I'm like a fat kid inside and I love to eat. So, when I went to college and even when I was in high school, I was the third child, my parents were like, yeah, we're done
Yeah,
raising
the-
kids. Good luck. So I was like cooking on my own. And I just learned
Yeah.
through trial and error and like just figured it out on the way. But if I had those skills earlier, it would have been nice for sure.
Well, it's one of those skills. Like, so many of my friends that have their kids in college now, that like their kids are just like, complain to them. Nobody picks up. Nobody does the dishes. Nobody
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
cooks. Like, they just don't know how to keep a house.
hmm
And so, like, that's a huge thing with having the kids home all day. It's like they need to learn the rhythms and what it takes. That's another benefit of homeschooling is
Right.
that they are part of my everyday life too, and what it takes to run a household, and the laundry, the cooking, the cleaning, all of that. And so they're part of it. And like, it's actually been so great having them home all day because like I would do all of the wood, keeping the fire down, and like the lawns and like all of that work, and then plus the baking and with babies in tow.
Yeah, you
Like,
can't do it by
and the
yourself.
gardening,
Right.
That
like
is a lot.
some nights I'd go, I'd have to, I wake up in the morning because I'm like, it's going to be hot. Like, I need to get the lawn mowed. And so I'd strap the baby on, and mowing the lawn. Like, my neighbors, sometimes I had two, one in front, one in back.
Oh my
Like,
gosh.
my
My
neighbors
gosh.
at our first house, like, would just laugh at me. But I'm like, well, because my husband was working and I didn't want him to be able to come home too and like
Yeah.
have time with the family and not have to go out and
Right.
work. And I actually enjoy doing that.
I do too. Yeah.
So it wasn't a big deal, but like now there's just so much like with the animals and the wood, like it's so nice that the boys can,
Oh,
and
yeah.
my daughter, like they go
Kitchen.
take care
Yeah.
because I'm in the kitchen and trying, still manage all the other stuff. It's not like I'm
Mhm.
inside watching a show or
Right.
whatever. Like I'm still working,
That's
but
huge.
but
it
it's
just
just
allows you to do that much more.
yeah.
Produce that much more.
They
Yeah.
can do their own laundry, if they need there's throw it in there, start it, they, have to do that. And so just the whole, I think that's going to benefit them as husbands and,
Oh, yeah,
fathers,
absolutely.
and just
Yeah.
even if they, when they move out, like knowing how to do all of those skills, a lot of times you don't think about because it's just like an everyday thing. You don't think about, oh, did I prepare my child for this when they leave?
Yeah.
I think
So-
about that for our kids, both of them, but especially our daughter. Like, how is she going to find a man in this day and age that
I know.
can do anything really? Like, you know what I mean? But like, even like work on the house.
Well,
or
but
do
it goes the other
whatever,
way. I
right?
have 5 boys and I'm like, hopefully there's,
Gonna be yeah.
some women that are being raised and aren't going to just stick their kids in front of the TV.
Right.
Yes.
Or stick an iPad in front of them that will
Mhm.
get outside with them and that
Right.
will want to, be a homemaker because that's,
It's-
I think it's an important
It
to,
It's a
to
hugely
be.
important role. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, it goes, both
It does
ways.
go both ways for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like, being in North Idaho, our kids all have the best chance of finding people like that, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, you do.
You do, because you go to other areas and it's like they're living in a different
Totally
world.
different.
Yeah.
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 You got believers with
Yeah.
teaching those skills.
Did you grow up here?
No, we've been here for 14 years.
Okay.
But Jared grew up here. He was
Okay.
born and raised here.
Where are you from?
Northern California.
Oh,
Yeah.
We must have had this talk.
Yeah.
I'm sure we have.
Yeah, but up in the foothills.
Yeah.
Towards Lake Tahoe. So
Okay.
Okay.
yeah. So I grew up in a
What town?
conservative, near Folsom, El Dorado Hills.
Yeah. Okay.
I think
Yeah.
Cameron Park.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I got a buddy that lives there right now.
Yeah.
All right.
So, but
Cool.
5 acres, and then so we did all that. My parents never had money, so I started babysitting at 10 to make money, and which is crazy to think of 10-year-olds.
Right.
Oh.
I mean, I was left with 3 kids, one of them a newborn,
Oh my
for the
gosh.
night with no cell phone. And I'm like, what? I can't even imagine doing that with my own kids.
No.
You know what's funny about that though is how long has Hadley been babysitting? So she's 11,
Yeah.
and she, we think of her as our little girl or whatever, and then she started babysitting, and to see her transform into this responsible girl that's making these kids dinner and taking them to the park and
Doing
what
all the
it does,
dishes and-
right?
yeah.
Like what you're saying.
Well, that's great that she does that because
Yeah.
it's hard to find.
right?
Yeah. I mean, it was impressive.
But
Like,
it helps
impressed
her
us.
grow, right, as a person, like you're saying. Like,
Yeah.
making your kids do these things is teaching them all kinds of skills and showing them what they're capable of. And,
Yeah. I need to get them involved in cooking more. Our kids clean the bathrooms. There's 4 bathrooms, so they have 2 each
and
once
they
a week.
do
And
their own laundry.
they do their own laundry, and
their
they
own-
they're responsible for the dishes. So,
Yeah.
which is
That's
a
good.
huge time
Yeah.
saver.
Oh my
Totally.
gosh. Yeah. At
And
night, it's
and
a
if you do
production.
it long enough, like, they don't even complain anymore. Really, it's like that's life. Like,
Well, that's like my kids are on rotation K, like for
Yeah.
emptying the dishwasher, and then
Yeah,
you have to load
Her
it.
too.
And so it's like, well, your turn's up. Like,
they
no
don't complain
complaining.
because they know it's like
Yeah.
that's
Yep,
the
they
way it's
know.
been. That's
I
life.
mean, even last night, Hudson got home late, and he came home, and I'm like, because he didn't
It's
do
your
the dishes
night.
before he left, and
So
I
it
was
just
like,
fills up.
you can do it tonight, or you can get up early and do it in the morning. He's
Yeah.
like, I'll do it in the morning. I'm like, okay.
Oh, really?
And he did. He got
And it
up
was
and did
done.
it in the morning.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
Good for him.
that was
Yeah.
that was
that's-
acceptable.
But that's another thing is setting those expectations for kids. And so I think also making your kids work where you aren't paying them
Yep.
or buying their things, because like my kids I've never had to leave a store because they were throwing a fit because they didn't
Yeah.
get something.
Oh,
I
yeah.
never had toddler tantrums in the store. My kids don't even ask me. They just like, I want to, excuse me. They're like, I want to, can I get this with, and they know they're going to have to use their money that they've
Right.
saved, but it's teaching them this is a long-term saving. Cause when you're going to want that big purchase, then you have to have that
Mhm.
savings. And then this is like, if you're spending money, if you see something you want to, impulse buy right here,
Yes.
but helping them to learn those skills and like knowing that they have to pay for stuff that they want.
Do
that we're
they?
not
So
gonna-
are your kids good at? I think this keeps like sliding down.
You're a little too close. There you go.
I don't know.
You didn't get it tight
Um,
enough.
I didn't. Are they good at like saving, or do they like our kids magically somehow always have money? Because we don't buy them anything either.
Yeah.
Like, so besides the essentials,
I
right?
have a couple that
And-
are spenders and
Yeah.
loved
Mhm.
and like big purchases,
Yes.
like on my teenage voice.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm going to get in dirt biking, and we don't even have a dirt bike. And he goes, spends $800 on gear. And we're like,
Oh.
okay. But now, he wants these other things. And like,
Yeah.
then they have to, anything for a car, like they have to buy half, purchase half their
Mhm.
car or whatever they save, and then we'll like match that. So
Right.
like kind of a Dave Ramsey thing.
Mhm.
And so, and then anything they want to put into it is their money. And so like, I'm like, you guys, that comes fast, and it adds up. And
Right.
then insurance and gas that you're gonna have to pay for, like you better, control those
Right.
purchases right now. So now that child wants to sell all the gear because he hasn't used it.
Oh.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
like, you're not
exactly.
probably gonna get as much, it's brand new.
Yep.
But
Good lesson.
yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah.
is, for
So,
sure.
but there's, like he bought his first shotgun, and
that's cool.
at 12, and he bought his first hunting rifle last year at 13.
Nice.
And so, and all of his gear, he had to purchase that. And so, but it just teaches them so much more value
Right.
Mm.
when they have to work. And then like when they want something, I'm like, okay, how many hours of work is that going to be? How many
Right.
days? If you work this many hours, there's real life math. You
Yeah.
work this many hours a day and this many days a week. How much money, how many days is it going to take for you to make what this purchase would
Yeah.
cost?
That's good.
And then like, is it worth it? Is that worth your time? So, which I think a lot of kids these days don't get that either.
Nope.
And then they go out in the world. It's that instant gratification. I want it now.
Credit card debt.
I should be starting out at $60,000, even though I have no experience. This is my first job. Like I deserve it because I went to school. Like, there's a lot of that entitlement that goes on. So, trying to teach our kids, that's not real life.
No, absolutely not.
So
what do you love like most about the community up here?
The like-mindedness.
Ah.
Yeah. When we moved up here, so our first was just barely 2, and then Tristan was 9 months.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay, we'll go up to Northern Idaho, get out of California, so we could purchase our first home. And then, but what I really loved is that we would drive around because we came up here multiple times a year to visit my husband's family, and that you see teenage boys in their driveways working on the cars, and there's hunters here, and guns weren't a big issue because I grew up with my dad shooting guns. And so just everyone had beautiful gardens. That to me, I was like, oh, their gardens are so like beautiful. And that it was that like-mindedness. They were more self-sufficient. It wasn't, people, not that they kept to themselves, but they could take care of themselves, which has always been important to me. And so when we moved up here, that was like, I just felt comfortable. I felt like, okay, but it has the mountains, which I love, and the lakes, which makes me feel at home as well. Because like I said, I grew up near Lake Tahoe. And so, but then recently with, the growth, that has been a little hard because I like to my small town, but the you meet so many people. I mean, it's always been like this. You could just start a conversation. I mean, you can talk about guns with anybody.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, or you can talk about the conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
Like anybody. And you're like, oh, you're not going to be looked at like you're crazy. Like they're probably going to add to it.
Yeah.
And so I just love that it just, I mean, I know not everybody is the same like-minded, but the majority, like I said, you could pretty much strike up a conversation with anybody or about politics even. And, they're going to be someone on the same page.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe not exactly, but they are going to be close to that. That's one thing. I almost feel like, I feel so safe here with, just being me and talking about whatever I want to talk about. Yeah. And then when I go somewhere else, I'm like scared, almost like scared of what I'm going to say. That's going to set someone
even
off
in Southern Idaho,
whatever.
it's different. We went down there and we got kicked out of a skate shop because we didn't have a mask on.
Oh.
Really?
And we were told that we were the cause of why there was this pandemic.
Oh gosh.
And I was like, well, if you believe that mask is doing something, then good thing you have it on. Like, why are you worried about us? We're healthy. We're not even sick.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, so it was, and that was just in Southern Idaho. So
yeah,
you do feel like, I don't know, this is definitely like my people, the place up here. Like
I get that feeling too. And it's like, no matter what community I get involved in, like, jujitsu, cold plunge, like all these little things. And I start meeting other people. And I'm like, oh, like, yeah, they're all cool. Like it's so nice. And I like that a lot about it. Even all the newer people moving here, we hear it a lot like, oh, these people moving here are ruining it. I'm like, you know what? Like maybe in some ways, and that would be like home prices going up. That would be the big way, and traffic
and keeping Idaho wages. Yeah.
Yeah. And that
people
stuff
coming and buying up because they have.
Yeah. That stuff for sure is an issue. But, as far as the quality of people coming, the huge majority are the same.
I've met some really cool. In fact, I have these women groups now and the majority of them have all moved here within the last 4 years.
Yeah.
And very like-minded, and, we do stuff together, and we have our own private signal chat.
Oh, that's cool. See, that's good.
Yeah. But it's great because you do find your people. And so that is like one of the positives about the growth is that I've met a lot of really cool people.
Yeah.
Really cool people. And I think you draw.
Yeah. Your energy, right?
The type of people.
Right. Yeah. I agree. Yeah. That's probably my favorite thing about this whole area is that right there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great place. We love it here. I'm just hoping we can stay here. That's why we created a business so that our kids.
What's the name of the business, by the way?
North Idaho Backflow and Blowout.
Awesome. And for those that don't know, that's for sprinklers. That's a huge deal up here in the wintertime. You need to blow out your sprinklers, get the water out of the lines, otherwise they will freeze. And then in the spring, especially, maybe not everywhere, but here for sure.
In Coeur d'Alene, you have to have, and I think Post Falls, you have to have a certified backflow tester come out and test your backflow, and the city will come after you if you don't.
Yep.
So you'll be
And
fined. So
every year I've just called a random number and now I have a new number to call.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
exactly.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, in the springtime, I got to remember.
Yeah. We'll reach out
the
to
name.
you.
Yeah. And I want to
Yeah.
push your name out there and get you guys
thanks.
as much business as possible. Cause family owned business.
Yeah.
all day
and
long.
local,
And trustworthy. I've had a few
Yeah.
guys come out that I'm like,
Well, that's one of the biggest things is that like my husband gets calls. I've called 5 people. No one's called me back. No one showed up when they were supposed to. And so like, that's a huge thing is being honest and showing up when you say you will.
So are you going to like teach classes to the public yourself?
So, yes, I will.
How do people find out? Like,
well, and so emergency preparedness classes actually is another huge thing that we've started to write a course that we want to really push because I think more people are open to that now as well.
Oh yeah. Right. You're not like a crazy prepper.
Yeah.
It's like you're just a normal human being.
Mm-hmm. That people need to be prepared and
smart,
not just think that you're going to go to your neighbor's house, which a lot of people, I hear that a lot. Well, I'll just come to your house.
Well, I only have so much
Good luck.
food for my family.
Yeah. Good luck.
The boys have incredible aim.
They do.
Yeah.
They all have them. So. I've got a little army. You
do.
But yeah, so that's a huge thing. I think people are scared to get started because it's like an endless, like
it's intimidating.
There's so many factors of it, preparedness. And so we really want to hone in that. And then that part of that would be, like bread making or cooking from scratch or just canning, those type of things that go along with that.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful.
Yeah, so, sign me up. Let's go.
Yeah. So
those are skills I want.
Yeah, but jujitsu is another one.
Yeah,
that's a huge skill.
Right? Yeah.
So that's my kids got into it and they love it. I did. I started to train and then I tore my MCL.
Oh, okay.
And so I know I keep getting crap, but when I'm going to go back. It's just finding the time. I really want to. But then I had back issues too that were really bad.
It's hard to get into when you're, of an advanced stage. Oh,
well, yes, and a mom. Yes, and middle aged. Yes, I'm getting to the middle age. Yes, that is. I'm like, but if you could start in your mid 40s. Like, I'm like, what shows that you can? It's never too late, and like hopefully inspire other people,
right,
to do it.
And you can find ways to train around. Like I've got some injuries that I train around, and you just the right people and everybody.
Yeah,
you train with.
My back was the biggest thing.
Yeah,
that I couldn't. Well, I didn't have the strength and the flexibility. And so, so I'm working on healing that. So we need to get back. Then it's just the times, and then when you're there with your kids for 4 hours, like, oh wait, I'm going to stay for an hour, but now you only dinner.
That's why
getting home. So it's tricky. And then the 6 a.m. is.
That's why I started at 6 a.m.
I know.
But the only psychos go there.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm a little psycho, but.
Yeah. So there you go.
and then you'd have to cold plunge. Do you cold plunge?
Oh, I cold plunge. Yep. Actually, I started it with our women's group. We just did it last week.
Nice.
Yep.
Where'd you go? Hayden Lake?
Honeysuckle.
Honeysuckle. Yeah, perfect. Yeah. That's a good spot.
So my oldest and I, we cold plunge in all the alpine lakes that we hike to.
Nice.
And so my oldest is the only one that will do it. But I did it in multiple lakes and glacier this summer.
That's probably pretty
so
cold.
Iceberg Lake, actually.
Yeah.
But it feels good after like a 10-mile hike, It feels amazing.
I can imagine that.
No, I've been doing it for 25 years. I would do that after all of my triathlon training. So
back before it was cool.
Yep, back before it was cool. When I did the Ironman, I would do an ice bath every single night.
Nice.
For recovery.
Did not know you did an Ironman.
I did it in 2006. I did it here.
Nice.
Yep, full Ironman. So it's like the third year here. So yeah,
that's always cool.
And I've just gone downhill since then. Then I got pregnant.
Broke you. No,
and then I've had 6 kids since. So my goal is someday I would love to do it again.
That's cool.
With one of my kids.
Yeah. So. As the kids get older, it's like so much easier to get back into doing things for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's so nice. I mean, our son's about to be driving our daughter to school here.
Yeah. He takes
maybe next week.
Test on Saturday.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, he takes the written tomorrow and then the test on Saturday. So
life-changing.
It will be.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm ready for it.
I know it comes fast. But it is fun. Like when our kids started snowboarding with us, like I was able to go snowboarding because I wasn't,
good.
breastfeeding or pregnant. Right. So it's like, and I'm like, this is so fun doing it with your kids. Like way more fun than doing it alone.
Especially if you like your kids, that goes along.
Exactly. Yeah. But to do it with them. Yeah, we do everything with our kids.
Yeah, we're the same way. We're like, constantly. Well, now they're getting older, and it's like I'm going to go to so and so's house, and
Yeah,
I find myself missing them a little
Oh,
Me
bit.
too.
yeah, for
I'm
sure.
like, sorry, they have to come here.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
yeah,
Like,
totally.
I haven't seen you all day. I
I
want to
know.
see.
I don't know. I felt pretty good. Hadley last night was talking about someone invited her over, and she's just to stay the night on Friday. And I was like, and she's like, I don't know. I really miss you guys when I'm gone.
Oh, cute.
yeah.
You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'll hang out with you, I swear.
I don't
Yeah,
know. I don't know
good.
how many more years we have. She's 13, so we'll
Yeah,
see.
I know. That's it. No, our older kids, they still like hanging out, but we let them. They have to have the friend
They gotta
time
have
too.
Yes.
So then it's like, well, we want to do this together as a family, so you can hang out this day, but this day's for us.
Right.
So
Exactly.
that's the way to
and
do
they're
it.
fun. Yeah, but it's fun.
Well,
yeah.
we're at an hour, believe it or
I
not.
know.
Isn't that
I
crazy?
believe it.
You
Yeah,
do?
Yeah,
It
I
flew
know.
by.
That
was a fun conversation. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks for having me.
on.
Well, that was good. Maybe we'll have you back again when you start teaching more, and we can talk about in depth.
Okay.
Love that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah,
That'll
cool.
be fun.
All right.
All right,
Okay.
Thanks, Amy.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.